Chair.
Yes, sir. No.
Chair.
Yeah.
Haverhill speaking.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah. Before we start, I know we're going live now. But before we start, but can we have a minute's silence, please? Because tragically today, got the news that over 100,000 people have died of COVID. And could we have a minute's silence for all them poor people that's 100,000, over 100,000? Actually, it's 100,162 that have died.
I've actually got it written.
Okay, Chair.
I've actually got it written down on the top of my agenda.
Oh.
So I've really thought about it. Yeah, I just quickly looked at what the news was. So yeah, thanks for that, Pat. I'll just welcome everybody to the meeting. I'm trying to work out if everyone's here or not. And just to remind everyone, it is being recorded and live streamed as well. And as Councillor Hanlon has just said, I think it's very appropriate that we have a minute's silence for those over 100,000 people that are known to have died, or in theory known to have died of COVID, and there may well be more, because you can never be sure, of course. And hopefully one day we'll, get that down to zero in future times. So if we could have a minute's silence, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. Right, I'll say welcome all. Right, item 1, apologies for absence, please.
Apologies from Councillor Furman.
Okay, he was here. Has he gone off to work now?
He has to go. They're now doing pickup slots down at the veg market for him, so he needs to be there at the particular time.
Yeah, that's fine. No, he did mention that. Okay, declarations of interest and request for dispensation, please. Councillor Mason.
Yes, Chair. Item 9 on the agenda, 2B. I sit on the Board of Trustees for the Citizens' Advice.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? I can't see anybody. Okay. Right, minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of December. Hopefully you've all read them.
Do you want them up on screen?
Do people need them up on screen? It's up to you. Oh, Tony, please. Councillor Brown's nodding. Okay, so we got them on screen. I just need to jiggle the people. Can I have a proposer, please, for those minutes, unless anyone's got any comment, any changes? Councillor David Smith, I think that was your hand. Yes, all right. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor McManus, I don't know why I'm moving. Sorry. Sorry, Councillor McManus. Okay. Can I have show of hands then for the approval of the minutes, please? Sorry. Lovely, thank you very much. Okay, agenda item. Sorry, Councillor Hanlon, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm having in your hand. Sorry.
Yeah, on C20, 174B.
Okay, we're going to get down to, sorry, go on. Yeah, all right, yeah, go on.
Oh, right, all right. Whenever.
I was going to go through the pages, sorry, Pat, sorry.
Oh, sorry, all right, okay.
Okay, so page, sorry, agenda item 4, sorry, page 125, nothing on there. Okay, 126 then. Sorry, Councillor Handon.
Yeah, on that particular one, C20 174B.
Yeah.
It's not actually on the minutes, but I did ask a question for Councillor Marks on GP surgeries, and I don't know if she knows, but she said there was £54 per patient that's given to Unity Healthcare, and I'd like to say that I don't know if she wants to speak on that, but looking at the NHS, what is it? Well, it's NHS. Yeah, I can't think of the name of it now.
Digital,
anyway, sorry?
Digital, NHS
That's
Digital,
it.
yeah.
NHS Digital, yeah. Looking at that, it's £154. I wonder if you'd like to correct that.
I understand that Councillor Hanlon, I understand that the information was provided to Councillor Marks by, and I'm hoping I'm getting this right, by the local surgeries, I believe, GP Federation. So I'll let Councillor Marks explain that.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Actually, there's two separate issues here. My understanding was I said 154, and I think it's 154 something, and the 54 is the element of it that is related to health. There's underpinning parts of it. It's broken into several parts, and the total amount for each person that goes to a surgery is 100. I think it's slightly more now. I haven't got the figures in front of me. I had them the other day. 154. So the 54 element is what goes on their health, and the rest of it is for underpinning parts. So it's 154,000. Maybe only the 54 got heard, and for that I apologise. But I think now it's 166 that is per person, and it is divided. You know, some of it's for health and some of it's for other elements. So yeah, 154 is the amount that was paid per person to the surgeries.
Okay.
Chair, just to advise, Councillor Furman has joined the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hanlon?
Yeah, thank you for that confirmation. I'd say just on that note, that there's 2.8 million, which is in total of that. But the thing is that you did say in January of 2020 that there was going to be 8.5 GPs for that amount, but at the moment they've only got 5.5.
They've actually got. It's not that straightforward. David Pannell of the GP Fed is offering to meet with you if you wish, and evidence that they've actually paid over 300,000 out of their own money towards propping up this surgery. Some of those GPs, when you asked for those figures, were locum by the very nature of the fact we couldn't get people to work here. I can't honestly tell you the figures today. As you probably all know, I have resigned from the surgery. And from the PPG and from the chair of that surgery for personal reasons. And I have no, let's make it tremendously clear here, David Brandon and the clinical team there are doing an absolutely incredible job. And in addition to the doctors who are employed now by the surgery, we have 2 extra coming, which will be trainees. Although they're fully qualified doctors, they're training to be GPs, or in fact, one of them is already a GP, but coming from a different country. And we get those free for a year. So in addition to any employed doctors at the surgery, there will be 2 that the surgery get for nothing. But in view of the fact that I have walked away from the surgery and will now have nothing to do with them, if you wish David Pannell to come, probably not at the moment while he's trying to run the COVID response across Suffolk, that would be extremely unfair. But I know he's even prepared to bring open book and show you how much money has been spent on the surgery. He has made that offer to you. So if you want to do that, Colin, you know, I can do it through me, or as I am closely connected with the GP Fed working, answering the COVID inquiries at the moment. But I think from here on in, any questions relating to the surgery, you will have to defer directly to the surgeries for response, please. I hope that's a satisfactory answer.
Yeah, I don't want to get into a debate on this, Councillor Hanlon, but I think that's a very valid answer.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair, for that, and I quite agree with you there. That is a very, very valid answer, but it's just noted for the minutes, really. And we would love to have a meeting with David Pannell, and that's a really good suggestion as well. But just to make a note, really, if this has all come from NHS Digital, that's the thing that we're getting our information from. I must tell you that.
Okay, that's fine. But
it's just that what upsets us is that there's two surgeries where one has got twice as many GPs as what the Unity has for the same amount of money. And there's another one that's got slightly less than the 100% of GPs. So it's it's things that we can obviously put to David Pannell and just ask him the question. It's just, I'd like to put that in the minutes and have that stated, really.
All right, well, let's
quite upsetting.
Let's add that as an action item for when Dr. Pannell or whoever is able to come and brief us.
Yeah, please, can I just ask your forbearance? They are going through their own private hell with the vaccine programme, and they're running that through Suffolk, and we're all working right through the night at the minute. So please,
I think also those thanks need to go to all those people who are working up at the epicenter and elsewhere around Suffolk and elsewhere doing that. I think it's.
David Pannell's overseeing the whole project for the Suffolk, and it is challenging. So,
Okay, sorry. Coming down then on that, going down to item C2176B. I just want to raise something here very quickly. Rail Future have been in contact with myself and others. They're trying to get this bid, as we discussed last month, off to the Department for Transport. And they've put a deadline for not to spend money, but at this stage, but to make sure that the expression of interest is properly registered with Department of Transport. So they put a deadline on it. I believe it's towards the end of March. So I'm going to propose here, as we discussed it last month, if people are happy, that as a town council, we have the town clerk write to Rail Future East Anglia, expressing our support for a rail link between Haverhill and Cambridge and beyond, of course. But also consider that they may want some money in the future, and whether we want to ring fence any money. So I don't know what people think on that. And also, obviously, we got the concept of the area form. So I'm just going to ask the clerk before we get any comments. Have we been able to, or even Vicky, have we been able to get hold of James Palmer at all?
Yes, I've been speaking to Joe Watley, and I've suggested some dates in February. I'm just waiting for her to come back.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Sorry, I saw Councillor Brown's hand up.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to second that. It's a very good idea, John. Yeah.
Okay, we'll come up before we second it. I believe there's £4,000 left in the grant pot, as it were, for this financial year. Could I suggest maybe at the very least we may want to ring fence that in case they come forward before the end of the financial year?
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. I say they've done a huge amount of background work on this. So the documents that they're putting forward, are really, good. I've read through them again today, the amended versions of it, and they've put a huge amount of, work into this. And hopefully it'll gain legs and get somewhere. So we've done petitions, etc., like that. Haverhill Rail Group, and the response from residents in the town has been absolutely overwhelming in support of a rail link. So anything we can do to facilitate that, I think we should help in any way possible.
Okay. Councillor Furman just told me he's loading up his lorry, so he can't. But I've got Laura, I think, first, and Colin.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I didn't really want to say anything on that, except that I support what was suggested. I actually just wanted to say, Chair, that I just need to pop away and try and put this one in bed. So I'll be back as soon as I can. Sorry, or whenever.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you.
I'll be back when I can.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Ron. Cheers. Colin.
Just for clarification, at the last meeting, I believe the discussion was that the council certainly agreed in principle with the whole basis of restoring your railway, but not necessarily the exact description of using the literal same route through Haverhill. So we're just talking about an in principle support for restoring a rail link, because also I think there was a discussion about whether heavy rail was realistic, and weren't necessarily wishing to pin your colours to that one and only mast, but the general kind of ship, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, Rail Future are basically saying several months before funding is needed, but they basically, whether the town council is supportive of rail link, whatever form that takes.
Okay, thank you. That'll be fine. And yeah, I do agree with you. It would be sensible to ring fence those funds, because that, in terms of general funds for grant giving, as we approach the end of the financial year, not surprisingly, you're running out of headroom. So if there is a late offer, you won't actually have grant funds available, and we'll have to start shifting money around.
Yeah, I think it's 4,200, I believe it is, the figure, that figure. Sorry, I think Councillor Hanlon, do you have your hand up? No? Okay, so you're all a bit small on my screen at the moment. So. Right, so I've proposed, and Councillor Brown has seconded, writing this letter, which I'm sure Colin will write. Can I have, if there's no other comments, can I have a show of hands, please? Okay, thank you very much indeed. Right, sorry, I'm trying to scroll the one that Colin's showing. Nothing else on page 126. Then moving down to 127, nothing on there, nothing one's got any comments, can't see anything. And finally 128. Sorry, Councillor Davidson.
Thank you, Chair. It wasn't actually minuted, but regarding the meeting dates for the forthcoming year, it was proposed by Councillor Roach. It was requested by Councillor Roach to the Town Clerk. Could these dates be added to our Town Council calendars? To date, they don't appear to have been added yet.
No, Alicia and myself, we did speak about this. There's two ways of doing this. One is we send you the file that you can add to your own calendar, because not necessarily everyone uses the town council calendar. You may use Google Calendar or some other means. There is nothing to stop us setting up a councillor's calendar, much as there's a mayoral calendar, for example. And that may be the easiest way to do it, and just add them all in there, and then share the calendar with yourselves. I think that's probably the easiest option. But outside the meeting, let me speak to Alicia and Colin about this and how we can do it. Sorry, it was. I did it for myself, so I manually added them all in, but I didn't think about anybody else, of course.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's write that down. ICS calendars. Okay, thank you very much. All right. Going on to item 5 on the agenda. Response to the public space protection order. Basically, just to clarify this, and it has gone through West Suffolk overview and scrutiny, which Councillor Brown, I believe, was quite forceful on. A lot of comments I made about it back in, I think it was March or April, to the officers. have basically been ignored, primarily because the police were unable to provide any material evidence of problems. But these were things like just adding like 50 feet to the railway walk because it terminates too early, this sort of thing. Just things, and I know Councillor Marks has had problems, you know, not near Tesco's, but that's obviously covered. And I also suggested adding all the public spaces like the pump track and public work and things like that. But the only thing they've come up with after all that is the removal of what used to be the old Haverhill Croft football ground is now Tudor. So I don't know whether Councillor Brown wants to say anything to you at the ONS meeting.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, it was a pretty forthright meeting. We, myself, Margaret and Joe did actually highlight the fact that there was a total lack of implementation and enforcement. Councillor Marks and Joe basically said with a few evidence, we've got bags full of evidence we can bring over to the council, i.e. empty drink cans that they picked up along the railway walk. Yeah, I did ask them how many Section 67 penalty notices had been issued out in what was the borough and now the district. In the time that we've had the PSPOs in operation, yeah, because obviously they can be used for other things like dog fouling, you know, all those sort of things. They were a bit taken back and said, "Oh, we will bring you the figures as soon as possible in a written answer." I think that was over a week ago, and we haven't had anything as of yet. But really, what we were saying was that it's okay, and we fully back these areas, but there needs to be some enforcement and not cost shunting and say it's the police's job. It isn't the police's job. The council officers have got powers to issue enforcement notices and penalty notices. So they got a little bit of a rocket last week, and I'm hoping they're going to come back and with some figures and with a view to what they can do around further enforcement. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I apologise to Councillor Marks and Mason. I forgot that you're on ONS as well. Apologies for that. Yeah, it's a bit like the Echo, I think it was last week, the week before, about the dog fouling fine that was given to somebody. I know this is not strictly about what we're talking about here, but the only reason that was in the press was the person who was found guilty actually committed the crime right in front of the environmental health officer. It wasn't if it was a member of the public reporting it or anything like that. So I think that's basically the only. Sorry, Councillor Mason. Sorry.
Yes, I mean, you may not necessarily have much appetite, and for what I'm about to say, one of the things that we could possibly investigate is some signage, some discouraging signage. I mean, both dog fouling and, this is a non-drinking zone. These are strategies that are used in other towns and cities across the country. And yes, there's an enforcement issue, but as a town council, it's possible that we could maybe look at some signage as well, just to try and make it more visibly explicit that that sort of behaviour is, not tolerable.
Our only answer to that, Councillor Mason, is we do have signs around the town for the PSPO, like on the Market Square and the town, and elsewhere. There may not be enough. That's another matter, of course. Councillor Lucarini.
The signage, West Suffolk paid to change it all when it went from being the borough to the district council. They're quite big signs, and personally I think they look ugly. I can't see how any more would help. If people are going to drink in that area, a sign's not going to put them off.
Yeah, we have a lot of recent problems with the bus station, particularly, the damage to the bus station canopies, which has been reported several times. They promised me they were going to do it about a month ago. We know for a fact it's all caused by those people who are drinking in those areas. Councillor Hanlon, I think then Councillor Brown again.
Yeah, as far as dog fouling is concerned, I can only talk from the walk bridge across the Ratting Road up to the skate park and beyond the skate park. But it's very good, you know, and I walk my dog every day along there, and I can't see any dog fouling at all along there. I've just pulled some young teenagers up on, because there's poo bags along there, and they was taking them, and I told them off and they put them back because they didn't have a dog with them. But you know, there's two lots of poo bags along there, and they're always full. So it's, you know, I'll give the council their due. They do their job along there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Brandon, Councillor Marks.
Yeah, I must disagree with Pat on this one. I did actually write to the council last week, highlighting the fact, obviously, you know, because of lockdown, I don't know if the railway walk up your end may be, you know, fine, but I found completely the opposite, is that, you know, where there's more people out taking their dogs around, there seems to be a lot more up on Emperor's Green, that East Town Park, you know, even some of the, you know, pathways, etc. Yeah, so I've asked if they can try and do a little bit more enforcement and some, you know, signs. Yeah, it's not the council's fault. It's, you know, people that are allowing their dogs to do it, and yeah, it's unfortunate, you know, subject, but it's not a very nice, you know, one, especially as there's a lot more people walking around at the moment.
Okay. Councillor Marks.
Yeah, just like to point out that, as you know, there is a Keep Haverhill Tidy with 860 odd members of it, and one of those is called Jill. She has taken, for the last nearly 18 months, she's made Railway Walk her responsibility, and she keeps it absolutely spotless. She even climbs right down that embankment, which worries the life out of me. I'd really quite like her to have somebody with her. I found her the other day clambering down it, and she just keeps that area wonderfully clean. But, you know, on the days that, because obviously Jill doesn't do every single day, there is plenty of dog fouling along there, and it's something that Tony and I raised. But the other thing is, if you're walking toward Tesco's, where the bridge is, people are coming out of the ramp at Tesco's and they're cracking open their beer cans as they get out of Tesco's car park. They're actually, and then they wing them straight in the hedge. And Jill the other day, she'd put an enormous pile of them right next to the bin along there. So if you want to thank somebody for why that site is so wonderful, please thank Jill, because she really deserves that. She's passionate about that area, and she does keep it wonderful. But it would be helpful if we stop people chucking the rubbish down in the first place, or the beer cans and the dog poo. So thank you.
Thanks to her and all the others. Councillor Handon, and then I want to quickly move on if we can.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a very quick one. I've noticed on that side of the river, that side of the road, there's no dog poo bags, I've noticed. So it would help. We've got two out outside.
Okay, they were provided by, they were provided by one of the vets, weren't they? Provided that. I can't remember which vet it was. So yeah, I know you're mouthing, Bruce. I can't know who it was, but whoever it was, anyway. I don't know if it's worthwhile one of our officers being able to contact them and say they need, maybe could they help out? Colin, is that right? Nodding. Okay, that's great. Okay, going back to the PSPO. So the only consultation is actually about Tudor Croft anyway, but it's interesting to hear the background of what's not happening. Have we got any comments on the Tudor Croft removal from the PSPO? You want a proposal, Colin, just to basically say we agree?
Well, I think it would seem strange if we didn't, given that it was a suggestion from the town council to exclude Tudor Croft in the first place. Yeah,
Councillor Brown, are you proposing?
But can we also put some comments in around, you know, just backing up what other councillors have said around enforcement, etc., in the other areas? Could we tack that onto the back of it? Because to be fair, that was one of the things that they said was, we've never heard anything from any Haverhill councillors, which I knew was an absolute, I know Councillor Burns has been constantly on around enforcement, and so have others. So Yeah.
I can't remember the. I presume there is a free text field there. I haven't checked it actually, Colin, but I assume it is.
Well, I'm just going to email them back. So
Oh, okay, you emailed it. Okay, that's fine. All right. So can I have proposer, please, to not only accept the removal of Tudor Cross, but also put some appropriate comments on? Councillor Marks and a seconder, please. Councillor Brown. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item 5B for Bravo, the letter from Play England about the keeping the pump track open, BMX track open. Colin, any thoughts or any comments?
The reason this is on the agenda is that we did have an email from Damien at West Suffolk to advise that they had closed their skate parks, which of course is up to them, they belong to them.
Yeah.
And last time round on the first lockdown, the government instruction was that all outside play areas had to be closed. So we also closed really on the queue from West Suffolk, we closed the BMX track. The government has not legislated to close outdoor play spaces this time round. West Suffolk has chosen to close its skate parks, that's fine. But I just want to have guidance from councillors to whether they wish me to just simply stick to the legislation and not close a BMX track, or whether they wish to follow West Suffolk and close the BMX track. Bear in mind it is currently open.
Yeah, that's right. Councillor Lucarini? I've got Dave.
Yeah, I think legally it has to be shut. Skateboard GB's interpretation of the lockdown law is that all skate parks have to be shut. It certainly doesn't meet the definition of a playground, which is defined as an outdoor structures designed for children to play in or on. They may include equipment such as slides, monkey bars, and climbing frames. If anything, it more meets the definition of an outdoor sports facility, which under the legislation must be closed.
Although it's for individual use at any one time, it's not. I know tennis has to be closed, for instance, but that's more than one person taking part. So I'm quite happy to do whatever the council instructs.
Okay. Let's go to Councillor David Smith first.
Yeah, Michael, you're talking about the pump track, are you?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Because BMX track's a different thing. That's just a
I
technical
know.
issue.
I
think the advice from Play England is that we do keep places open for children to exercise for physical reasons, also for the mental state. So I would like to see it open.
Okay. Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I'd agree with Councillor Smith and keep it open. But can we just put some signs up, and extra advice around there, so that just to remind youngsters or people that use it, just to play the ball, play the game, play. Yes.
Councillor Hanlon?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, they are still using the BMX track. I walk past it. It's not crowded like it normally is. It's just that they get in there, especially the older teenagers. So they're still using it.
Yeah. You're talking about the BMX up at or the skate park up at Haverhill Road. Yeah. I saw them up there the other day. Anyway, I'm of two minds on this one, because it's not just dedicated for kids; it's everybody. And you could have 30, 40-year-old adults up there mingling. And is it potentially? I know what Colin's saying about individual things, but I'm just a bit worried about groups, because you're not supposed to have more than two people, suitably distanced. Councillor Lucarini again, and then Councillor Mason.
Do we actually need to find out what the law is? Because we're just going off a letter from somebody that says about playgrounds. Is it worth, I don't know, talking to Environmental Health at West Suffolk to get a definitive answer?
Then, sorry, go
Our legal advice comes from the National Association of Local Councils. I'm happy to go back to them and get clarification on whether or not what the legislation says as far as they're concerned, and that gives us legal protection in respect to the fact we've taken legal advice on that. It isn't just a letter, of course. It is from the national body for play areas, etc.
Yeah, it's just whether what we've got is defined as a playground or a sports venue.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, noted. Yeah.
Councillor Mason.
Without that confirmation, I don't think I would support having the pump track open. As a school teacher, I today was working with a Year 10 bubble, and we are working every day keeping students of different ages apart from each other, and even within a classroom environment, socially distanced, with huge amounts of hygiene, to create a council sanctioned zone where you have mixed age groups mixing freely, possibly without parental supervision, which is what you would normally get in a playground, a children's playground area, I think is possibly unwise. But again, subject to confirmation regarding its status. But without that, I don't think I could support it being kept open.
Okay. What I was going to suggest before we go to Councillor Smith is whatever happens, let's get that legal advice. Let's delegate the authority to Colin, the town clerk, if that's all right with people. Councillor Smith first, David Smith first.
Yeah, as I say, this time of year it's not very busy anyway, but they are pretty self-policing, and they do limit numbers amongst themselves that's actually using the truck at any one time. I think something like it's 6, and they do their best for social distance. I know the concerns about mixing, but they are doing all they can to limit that.
So is everyone happy that we delegate it to town clerks? Obviously, we can't wait for the next meeting, I think. So can I just have a proposal for that, please? That we delegate authority, Councillor McManus and then Councillor Lisbeth. All those in favour, please, show. Okay, over to you, Colin, on that one. Right, moving on to item 6, reports from district county councils, etc. The police, well, you saw my report. I don't know if anyone's got any comments on it. On the police side of things I'm talking about. No.
Chair.
Sorry, Councillor. No, sorry. Sorry.
Just to say that Inspector Horton did repeat his offer that if there was a particular issue that councillors want to speak to the police about, he's happy to take part in a Zoom session with councillors. As you know, he's done a couple already. Yeah. If you do happen to think of an issue, he's quite happy to come along.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Fox, first of all. We got your report. Thank you very much. Anyone have any questions on Councillor Fox's report before? Have you got anything else to add, Paula, at all?
No, nothing else.
I did wonder whether, as a council, we should be responding to the consultations that Councillor Fox put on her report, which was the climate change action. And there's also, I'm not worried about necessarily North and Lowestoft or Western Millwall. You mentioned, Councillor Fox, on your report, there's one thing I was going to ask. Your consultation of Suffolk Climate Change Action Plan. The consultation said it says run until January the 4th, but in the previous paragraph it said 10th of February. I assume it means the 10th of February is the actual date.
10th of February, yeah.
Okay. I've lost Councillor Crooks. I don't know whether people want to just comment on those individually or as a council. We haven't got time before the 10th of February anyway.
It's probably easier individually.
Yeah, I went rather to the agenda item anyway. Okay, sorry, Councillor Dave Smith, I think that's your hand.
I want to ask Paul a bit about the highway budget. So what's happened there then? Basically, each councillor had a fixed pot of money that was allowing them to fix potholes and whatever, and that's been taken away, is it?
It has, yeah. It has. It's supposed to come out when the elections come in May, and David will correct me if I'm wrong, then you get you start again, whereas before it used to roll over, and you start again with, is it about 8,000, 6,000, David?
Yeah, it's 6,666.
That's it. And then each year you get that set amount rather than it rolling over. But you get it for the term, is that right?
Yeah. So can I ask then, so what happens if the election is then delayed to say the autumn?
Well, I don't know. I wondered that. They must freeze that till then.
I mean, I'll get on to that controversial in a minute. When I was councillor, county councillor, I think Tony will confirm, it wanted, yes, it used to roll over. That was the only one that did roll over because your own personal locality didn't. But more important, as you've alluded to in your report, Paula, is, projects can take ages to do things. And also, they never stopped until PERDA started in March 25th, if that's whatever the date it is. Not at the 3 months before. So, I'm very concerned about this. Some of the stuff that you're doing, Paul, and David are doing. Are they going to use it as an excuse as they did at the last election, by saying, well, sorry, you're no longer in power, as it were, and we're forgetting about projects. Not happy about that, because that includes things like, as you were doing, Paula, with things like the bus shelters and all this,
Oh yeah,
that sort of stuff.
Well, I got my projects in before the cut-off date, so they're all right.
No, they don't necessarily believe that, because I know Councillor Brown got stuff in and it never got done. So, and I did as well. And they denied ever, even though I'd signed all the paperwork and they'd agreed it, they withdrew the funding, let me just say.
Yeah, if I can just.
Sorry, Councillor Rose, let's go on. Sorry, before you get on to you, was there anything else, Paul, on yours?
No.
No. Councillor Rose, anything?
Yeah, just to add to that, the locality teams, all of the whole of the locality requests were just done by one small team of highways. So there was only like a gang to do all of locality projects across the whole of Suffolk. So obviously it's a long time to get things done. As Tony knows, that one Couples Road has been going how many years? So it's about that. So what they've done, because this year the teams have been pulled all over the place, they pulled the budgets and they're starting it again after the election, and then we'll have to see what the scheme is. But they're just working through. Doesn't stop us putting in any requests for jobs. It's just that there'll be a request for jobs, but hopefully that means that the whole of the highways team can cover that work rather than just one small team. So it might be better in getting things done more timely, but we'll just have to wait and see. But they're working through what they've got.
Okay, very quickly, Dan. What happens to, because you used to roll over, you could build up quite a little nest egg. And we all know that highways are so far behind on any work. That money effectively has been lost.
Yeah, effectively what was happening, John, and Paula will tell you this as well, is that some councils had huge pots in the tens of thousands and never spent a penny, and then others spent all of it and then couldn't get anything done because they hadn't got a pot. So they've pulled it all in to one pot again, and then they'll allocate it out. So those that were spending money will start to get money again, and those that were amassing it will only have a small pot. So we'll have to see how it balances, but as we all know, anything to do with highways is problematical. Right. Moving on to other stuff then. The COVID report that we send out, that's only going to come out twice a week, so either I or Quillen sort of tend to have a race to get it to Colin to whip out. So we'll just keep forwarding stuff as we can. There's also the launch of what they've called a 2020 fund, and there's various projects within it, and I'll circulate this around later. But one of the things, John, you might find interesting is that there's a scheme with AMPR.
Yeah, I knew about this.
To look at stuff. So again, it's a small amount of equipment that's got to be shared around the county, but it will allow some extra enforcement for speeding, so you'll be able to share it, and then the ANPR will issue the fine, sort of thing. So that's coming across. There's bits for youth work, adult digital learning, that's coming on, so learning tools and laptop loan schemes. So various bits and pieces, but what I'll do is I'll send you the list out. And again, they're putting in more EV charging points and making grants for another 100 around the county. Whether we get any of those remains to be seen, and whether we actually get a fast charger, that's a whole different question. So
Yeah,
that's really about it, because a lot of the other stuff doesn't really affect us. So things like quiet lanes and tree planting, you know, we're not sort of going to create a woodland, I don't think, in town, although it would be nice in some areas. Possibly that bit of land that we've got, the old Chilston playing fields, perhaps we could plant some trees there. But
we will have, hopefully, eventually, a nice country park, hopefully.
Yeah, and then just while I've got it, as far as enforcement from West Suffolk was concerned, all of the enforcement officers have now they're doing COVID work, and they've been out and visited all 64 supermarkets in West Suffolk to make sure that they're doing compliance, and they're going around firms and other bits and pieces. So they are out and about, but obviously they're not doing the stuff that we think we would like to see with the dog fouling and all the other stuff, but they are out and about.
Before I get on to Councillor Mason, I understand what you're saying there about enforcement. The trouble is it's been going on for years as well.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with COVID. And equally, they failed miserably to visit most food establishments during COVID. I even said to them, why don't you just send an email out to them all? So they're not doing it. But anyway, Councillor Mason.
Yes, just really quickly, Councillor Roach mentioned the laptop loan scheme, and it's just sometimes nice to be able to give some feedback back. I myself personally have been involved in identifying students who have not had laptops at home, and for me, the scheme has been a great success in identifying children from disadvantaged backgrounds who may not have had access to suitable IT to support them with their learning. So please do feedback, Councillor Roach, to County about the positive impact that scheme has actually had in our schools.
And I just remind people we have got the BBC are doing a great scheme as well. I've got Councillor Hand and Councillor Brown. I just mentioned about, so before we go on, we finally got the 4 roads in Haverhill that have had no fibre optic for the last 20 years. Have finally been connected, so that's good news. So Councillor Handon first, and Councillor Brown.
Yeah, as far as the charges is concerned, it's chicken and egg, as I said. I think it was last meeting we had. That people are not taking up electric cars because of the fact that most of our estates haven't got cars near their houses. So that's a big problem, and I think that should be emphasised. But getting back to what I wanted to say, the council did the potholes by the Cangle Junction very quickly, and I'm afraid they've all come up, and it's back to potholes again around that area. So there's about 2 or 3 along that road, which is they didn't last very long, so I don't know what they didn't do or did do wrong or what have you.
I think I saw on roadworks.org that somebody's coming back to fix them again, hopefully under some sort of warranty scheme, I would like to think. But don't hold your breath on that one. Councillor Brown?
Yeah, thanks. It's just going back to what Joe was saying around the laptop scheme, which is sounds like a really good scheme. What about if young people haven't got laptops, what's the likelihood that they haven't got broadband at home as well? Does that time some scheme to make sure there's a broadband or connection for them? Because it's all right having a laptop, but if their family can't afford broadband, how do they get on there?
I understand there is a government scheme to provide that free of charge to those people, I believe. Right. either based, if you've got physical phone connection, then through a router or through a 4G broadband type thing.
Yeah,
I believe there is. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah. Go very quickly on the before I go to Councillor Smith. Just remind me on the AMP. I did know about it. I lost you, Councillor Roach. There you are. I did allude to it in my report about the road safety task and finish group on that. Sorry, Councillor Dave Smith, I think that was.
Yeah, just going back actually. Paul mentioned the climate change consultation. Did we say we were going to make a representation on behalf of the council, or I was just perhaps we could leave it to the environment group, the climate change committee we've got, see if they can have a look at it.
I don't think we've got time. Colin, I don't think the environment group's due to meet before the 10th of February. So you're muted.
It's due to meet on the 9th.
Oh.
I can draft something and have it ready for the 9th and then send it.
Okay, all right. Well, that's probably a better way of doing it. So I didn't realise there was one coming up. Okay. So in that respect, are you? I guess everyone's happy for us to delegate that to the environmental, what's it called, energy and sustainability group. Okay, that's great.
Sorry, Chair.
No.
As we have Vicky here, Vicky, can you just confirm the date of that meeting? Because I said the 9th, because I noticed it's been slid across from the 8th. But what date is that meeting?
It's on the Tuesday.
Definitely.
Yes, that's in the calendar that was agreed at full council, and I went through and double checked it on YouTube as well.
Yeah, yeah. So you're right. It is on my calendar as well. So I just checked it as well. Okay. That's great. Did I have someone else wanted to speak on that at all before we move on to district councillors? Okay, district councillors. Anybody other than my report? I'm sure you've read with great enthusiasm. Nothing. Oh, so Councillor Roach again.
Yeah, just it was in the minutes earlier on, but the local plan consultation, we had 2,900 visits and we had 2,500 actual comments on it. So about the biggest consultation we've ever had, and we're just sifting through now before we get to publishing all the comments. But some of them were quite detailed, but there's still an awful lot of work to sift through all of those.
Okay, you got my report, unless anyone else got anything to. I just wanted to bring you very quickly, I'm not going to go through this. I just had this meeting literally before this meeting with the Greater Cambridge Partnership about the A1307 between the A11 and Haverhill. Some of the schemes are subject to funding review. The greenways, they're going to be putting pedestrian crossing lights at Hildresham Crossroads next door to the Pampisford Road bit. At some point they're going to do that, put another more pedestrian lines between Linton and Dalhead Foods. The westbound bus scheme, which some of you may know about, which was planned to be this side of Linton, has been removed from phase 1, and it will be formally removed in March, which basically means they don't know if it's going to happen or not now. They're going to do timing, although it probably doesn't matter much of that at the moment, timing modifications to Linton Sycamore Junction. I'm not asking, by the way, Alicia, if you're there, writing these down. Hopefully we'll get some slides from them. The roundabout at Bartlow Road is currently out for design and tender, and they think they're going to start that in the summer. So that will provide a roundabout at the Bartlow Road crossroads, finally. There is criticism of some of you will have. The Dean Road crossroads, which is further towards us, this is where they're going to basically, people coming up from the south will only be able to turn left and go down to the roundabout and come back again. You will not be able to cross over the crossroad. But people coming from the north will be able to cross over because of apparently it's farm traffic or something. The whole road, except for the dual carriageway by the thing, will be downgraded to 50 mile an hour, which most of it is anyway now. They are putting average speed cameras in, starting the next couple of months, from Haverhill all the way to the dual carriageway. And then they started on about phase 2, which is actually primarily about the Cambridge Autonomous Metro. The fact they have 430 responses and 130 of them I mentioned. They're, what's it here? They basically, I think they've had so many adverse comments on it, they're not releasing the data yet, but they will do. I've asked them to send me all the slides and everything, and ultimately, hopefully, we'll get the full result of the consultation through the town council's response and see what they've said about it. Councillor Hanlon.
Yeah, at the moment, because there's 2 dual carriageways, isn't there?
Yeah,
one of them is 50 miles an hour, and the other one is obviously 70 miles an hour. Are they both going to be 50 miles an hour?
No, the Horseheath one will remain at 70.
But that's what, with average speed cameras still?
No, the average speed cameras will stop at the dual carriageway. They'll start from the Haverhill border or the Cambridge-Suffolk border and terminate. You go up Park Hill and then around the corner and terminate at the. Apparently, it's all to do with the fact that they're mobile units. They're the ones that normally sit at the end of the bypass. Apparently, it's so old and decrepit that they're going to scrap it. So they're going for average speed cameras. So it's a lot less manpower efficient and everything. So as soon as I get anything, I'll distribute that out to everyone.
Thank you.
Any nothing else? Any members of the public, Connie? No. Okay, Mayor's report. Well, it's non-existent because I haven't done anything for obvious reasons. Item 7. Moving on to item 8. One Haverhill Partnership. I haven't had anything. I haven't had a board meeting, have we? No. So nothing there. Right, moving quickly on to item 9, adoption of committee meeting minutes. The planning committee held on the 11th of January. Could I have a proposer, please? Councillor Elizabeth. And a seconder? Councillor Dave Smith came up. All those in favour, please show. Lovely, thank you. Item 9, Bravo. Move the adoption of the minutes of the Leisure and Community meeting held on the 12th of January. Councillor Marks proposing. Anybody seconding? Councillor Paula Fox. All those in favour, please show. Yeah. Also on the same item, this is where Alicia comes in and Vicky, I've lost Vicky. She's still here. Oh yeah, Vicky's there. Sorry, let's see. Yeah, sorry. You've all had I hope you've all seen the latest report from Alicia sent this afternoon. I certainly haven't worked out what the difference is because I must admit I didn't compare the two. Benches for the railway walk.
Do you like that on screen?
Councillor Hanlon.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I've been looking at this. Personally, I think we should go for. It's called the Phoenix with armrests, which is the wooden one with the, I don't know if it's plastic or iron armrests. The reason I'm saying that is if you look at where all the benches are going, there's a green line, all the others are blue, but a green line, I don't know if you noticed, but that's the one facing Tesco's. I got that some 18 years ago, put there because of Westbourne Court. We used to, in them days, we used to go to meetings and because it was owned by the Borough Council with the elderly people in that Westbourne Court, and they wanted a bench there because of walking down to town. And the reason I'm saying that one, because that one is similar to what I've just mentioned. And that one also that I've just mentioned, the slats can be replaced easily.
The slats won't need to be replaced with that one because it's actually made out of recycled material, all of it.
Colin, could you bring the document up on screen first of all?
I believe it's the second bench from the last plan it's talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the third bench from the. Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, well, let's have a discussion on what people think.
But
I mean, first of all,
sorry, Chair, if you notice, they've got bolts on them or studs on them, and they can be removed.
Okay.
But they need to be replaced because that's not wood. It is all recycled material, so it's all plastic.
Sorry.
All right. Well, sorry.
Sorry, Chair. Can that be replaced or not?
I mean, it shouldn't need to be replaced in a very long time because it is really, really solid plastic that wouldn't be weathered down easily.
Yeah, Chair, it's also, I think as well, the only reason that the slats got replaced on the bench that I got is because someone burnt a hole in it. But as I say, and that could happen here, unfortunately.
Right, okay, well,
but what I'm saying is that it looks a comfortable chair as well. If you notice, it slants backwards as well. So anyway, that's my opinion.
Okay, well, let's start from the top of the document first of all, which is the locations. Obviously, they've Alicia and Vicky have looked at. I think mostly Alicia, so I understand. I've personally got a couple of comments before we take submissions. I did ask Vicky earlier on about one near Manor Road, but I understand that is obviously officially. I think probably 18 to 25 are in Withersfield, and I'm not going to argue the toss about that, but I wonder if we can maybe encourage them to maybe put a couple of quid towards a project if we do decide to do anything. I don't know if they're particularly rich or not. Now, first of all, I had Tony Brown. I've Councillor Brown first, and I think I saw Margaret Marks next, and maybe James.
Yeah. Firstly, thanks, Alicia, for all your work on this, and Vicky. It's a great little document. As John said, the top ones are in Withersfield going around the flood park. There have been a couple of benches put in there in the last couple of months or so. I don't know if you knew that. I don't think it's the Environment Agency or Withersfield Parish Council have done that. But whilst I'm looking at all the options, is that, personally to me, the one that I quite liked was the idea of the railway sleepers, because obviously it is the railway walk and it fits in with those. They're very robust railway sleepers, virtually indestructible. The plastic recycled ones worry me a little bit because you can set them on fire, and as we've seen, quite a lot of the plastic bins along the railway walk have been set alight and burnt out. So one of those could potentially cause quite a big fire, being plastic. But going back to the railway sleeper theme, I think, personally, that it's a very good idea because it's so simple. That's it there. But in fact, if we got some lumps of oak or some ash or something like that, I'm more than willing to make just the metal brackets and install them, because I've got all the equipment. I've got a workshop. I've got metal. I can do the brackets. So really, all we need to do is, if he decides to go along that route, is just get the timber, and I can help do the rest. Really, I've got a workshop. I've got
quoted is just for the timber alone, so that wasn't for bolts or anything like that as well.
No, that's it. I mean, the wood's going to be the expensive part, but I say the other bits. We've got metal and all the rest of it, and I know exactly what to do. I think that'd be a fairly, cheap option if we can get hold of. And to be fair, we would probably only need something like one railway sleeper size, but we couldn't actually use an old railway sleeper because They're filled with creosote and oil in the summer. That starts leaching out as soon as someone sits on one, and they'll end up with oil on their backside. So yeah, so we need to get some, potentially some ash or something like that if he decides to go on that route. But yeah.
All right, thank you. Councillor Marks, and I think, did Councillor Crooks, did you have your hand up or not? Yeah, you did, okay. I think Councillor Stinchcombe.
Yeah, just two things really. Tony, yeah, lovely idea on the things. Can you just consider some of the benches having backs in, because for older people and people who are unstable or maybe disabled, actually having no back on it is not really comfortable and quite, they can fall off them and it's not much fun for them. So very nice for the younger people, and I think they would really appreciate it. Just my plea really is the one opposite Tesco's that Pat has referred to, the bin, because geographically it's not next to the seat, people will not walk to it and they chuck everything under the seat. And that's one of the areas that is constantly having to be cleared up. It's incredibly unattractive then. But so if we're putting benches in, can we please make sure that we have robust bins? And I don't mean something pathetic next to them, but something robust, because people will eat their sandwiches, they will eat their lunch. They need something quite big to chuck that rubbish in, please. That's quite important, really.
No problem. Councillor Crooks.
Yes, I agree with the railway sleepers. It's definitely the way to go, as it's the railway walk. I'm not saying that design on the photo is the one, but definitely railway sleepers. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Stinchcombe. Can't hear you.
Oh, I'm
okay. There you are. There you go. Got you now.
Yep. Okay. Sorry. I'll speak up. I'm sorry. I'm having microphone trouble here. I think my objection to wood is that it's a summertime only thing. You can't sit down on a porous wooden, unless it was painted. But railway sleepers are not going to be painted, are they? They're going to be porous, and you can't wipe. Even if you went with your own J-cloth, you can't wipe it off easily. So, unless you're wearing a waterproof jacket or taking something to sit on, it's actually not as useful as it looks. I mean, I agree the aesthetics of it could be wonderful, but it gets quite a lot of timber to start putting a decent backrest in. The whole thing gets a bit more monumental than that photograph shows. I think the reason why I was quite, not for the aesthetics particularly, but I was quite keen on the Glaston because it seemed pretty indestructible. And I did ask Alicia to check with the manufacturer about the potential for a burn, and the manufacturer, I seem to recollect, said it will not burn because there is sufficient retardant in it not to burn. I mean, that's not a guarantee that you couldn't sit there with a blowtorch and eventually get a conflagration, but you wouldn't do it just with a bit of paper, apparently. So Alicia says.
Sorry, Alicia, did you want to say something or not?
Their wording was fireproof to a point.
Okay. I'll see Councillor Hanlon then. I suppose there is a question: is do you have a mixture of designs? Do they all have to be the same all the way along? I mean, it might get a bit boring for people. Councillor Hanlon.
Yeah, just to add to that, the bit, but the bench that I got, that part of it was wood. And they burnt a hole in it, and they can do exactly the same with the sleepers. And I totally agree with Councillor Stinchcombe, because I tried to find a seat the other day and you can't sit on them. I was at the at West Suffolk Hospital, and they was all wooden like that, and you just couldn't sit on them because they were so wet. And there was nowhere to sit. So I totally agree.
Although I think modern. I'll come back to Councillor Stinchcombe. I got Councillor Mason as well. I think what Councillor Brown was suggesting was not necessarily using. Well, can't use sleepers, of course. You could use modern sleepers. Mind you, modern sleepers probably concrete anyway. But some sort of other wood, I guess, which wouldn't necessarily be so wet. Come back to you, Councillor Stinchcombe. I got Councillor Mason, and then Laura. I think after that, so I'm running off my screen a bit.
Sorry, I've lost my thread. Come back to me in a moment.
Okay, Councillor Mason then.
Yeah, just a passing comment on wood. Much of the walk is actually undercover, and you get quite a lot of green residue coming down off the trees, and wood has a propensity for becoming slimy, having mold on it, and I'd be very nervous about having wooden seating along such a covered area because of what state that wood be in. I also kind of like the idea that we're taking plastics out of the environment, and the recycled benches is very much a statement of intent in terms of, rather than it going to landfill, these plastic benches are not created from new plastics but recycled plastics, and I think it's a timely statement of intent regarding our commitment to wanting to look after the environment, of doing something positive with plastic as a town. And I think the final point is, I hear what Councillor Brown is saying regarding having something meaningful regarding to the railway walk. I'm particularly interested sometimes in when you walk along somewhere and you find, I don't know, something related to the railway, a wheel, whether at some point in the future we could have a look at making it more personalised to it being a railway, and finding artefacts that could be found and discovered along the railway walk, which points it to being a railway theme, because I understand what you're saying about the railway sleepers, but I'm not particularly a fan of having wood under a canopy. Thank you.
Councillor Miller-Jones.
Hi, yeah, I literally kind of just walked back into the room and probably missed a lot of this discussion, so I may well be repeating, but I had looked at this earlier, like when we got sent it, and I thought it just seemed like the Realised Futures one, the Enviro 1500, to me just looks way better than all the others because it's the second cheapest. I think it looks good. It's recycled plastic. It just, for me, it seems to tick all the boxes. And I just feel like, I mean, especially looking at price, but also just on kind of all the factors, comparing them all, I just feel like that's miles of stand out from the others, that one. So I don't know if that's been said, but I just wanted to get that in there.
No, it hasn't. Just to add to that, Realised Futures are the ones who are supplying or have supplied the picnic benches that should be on the market square. They seem to move. And also hopefully the new benches that we're going to be having to the high street at some point in the near future. I mean, I've mentioned, and also I know Vicky mentioned to me earlier on today, it'd be nice, whatever you do with these things, is to have some sort of informational board at certain points to say, from this place you can see my house or something like that, not that important, but that sort of thing in the future. Obviously, where, as Councillor Mason said, the canopy is not so dense so that you can actually see out. We also have to be conscious that Barley Homes and Taylor Wimpey will be providing some funds to upgrade the footpath by their respective developments at some time in the hopefully not too distant future. But I quite like the idea of a mix. I do like the Realised Future ones as well. Councillor Stinchcombe.
Yeah, sorry, I've found my thread again. I think it was the Brox app, the metal effort on two legs that we found in Keddington. And I know we don't necessarily want to start a competition with Keddington, but it looked very nice in a parked area in Keddington. And I think it's pretty damn indestructible. You might burn wood, you might burn plastic. I don't think you're going to burn that because it's steel, but you will get an extremely cold bum if you sit on it at this time of year. So it's not old person friendly. It doesn't have armrests. So it's you can't please everyone all the time.
Sorry, Lisa.
It can come with armrests, and I've wrote it as a little bullet point. Armrests are available for an additional £50. So. They just didn't have a picture that displayed the armrests.
Personally, I don't like that one, but that's me. Councillor David Roach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I quite like the idea of the recycled plastic and the Enviro 1500 because it looks like a wood bench. It looks like it fits in. And the other thing perhaps we could do as well is we could ask people if they wanted to sponsor the benches. That would be quite nice with plaques. So I think we could do some of that as well. So it offsets the cost a little bit, and then it also makes it a social exercise as well for people to put plaques on to either remember events or people. So I think we could do some of that as well. But I quite like the idea of recycled. It just says that we're not taking sort of things out of the environment. We're not chopping down trees. It's because we need to be sure that it was sustainable. So yeah, just taking it out of the landfill makes a lot of sense to me. Thank you.
The recycled benches can also be recycled once they've had their life over with us as well.
Councillor Marks.
Yeah, unrealised question. It came to my mind really when they were building Boyton Hall, those really big houses along Suckling Road. Tim and I were asked if we wanted to buy one of the plots, and what they said was £20,000 from each plot was going to the district council for infrastructure money. What's happened to that £20,000 from each of those 5 plots?
If you bear with me, I could probably find the S1.
Okay, no, it's just you talking about people funding things, and I just thought I never saw any of that money being returned for infrastructure money. I don't know why that suddenly struck me. I think it was you asking about money coming in, but £20,000, that's 100,000 that potentially was paid for the plot money, and it went to the district. But I just wondered what it was used for, or where it's hanging about, or if it has been used, if it has an infrastructure.
I believe the last time I looked at that document, which I'm sure I did distribute to all councillors a while back.
Oh, John, I'm sorry, you keep wandering off.
Sorry, I said that I did send that out to councillors some while back, but I'd have to find the paperwork for the S106. But I can't answer in the moment. I've got it.
No, it's fine. It's just that if there is some money sitting there, we ought to be chasing that down, really.
Yeah, there's very little S106 money that's not already allocated to projects on the development sites.
Okay. But anything that's left over, we could have it for this sort of thing, couldn't we?
Got somebody else with their hand up, which I missed. Did I flash in my eyesight there?
Councillor.
Oh yeah, sorry, Councillor Hanlon. No, sorry, you put your hand in front of your face, perhaps I can't see.
Yeah, I have to do that because it goes off otherwise. Just emphasise that the benches, we must say that if we do choose one, they must be bolted to the ground, just in case. And also the reason why because I don't mind that plastic one as well, but it's just the one I mentioned seems more comfortable. Obviously it's dearer, but as I say, I think we should go for the recycled plastic ones personally. Thank you, Chair.
The realised future ones, if you don't already know, are locally produced or certainly on the East Coast somewhere. I can't remember if it's Suffolk or Essex. But more importantly, they're made by people who are disabled or low skill sets and all this sort of stuff. A bit like Remploy used to be for years ago. So as I say, we bought those ones recently. So I personally, from a personal point of view, I like the Enviro one or either of those ones, actually, to be honest with you. But I'd also like the concept of the railway sleepers. I wonder whether we could do a combination of both, maybe, somehow. But Councillor Miller Jones, sorry, I can see there, and I'll come back to you, Colin, afterwards.
Sorry, I don't know if this has been discussed already. Sorry, it's really unhelpful me popping off and coming back again. But I saw on the railway sleepers one that it said that was just for the cost of the materials, but that it would also need to be put together. Do we know kind of how expensive that will be?
It's just the cost of the wood, and Councillor Tony Brown has just very kindly offered his services in bolts and metals and helping.
Okay.
He can putting it together as well. So.
Okay, fine.
And I suppose the thing about the railway, sorry, Colin, before I interrupt you. So the thing about the railway sleepers from a permanent is obviously it's through a local supplier. Sorry, Councillor, sorry. Colin, Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. To say that the next step here would be to submit the design to West Suffolk, as it belongs to them, the actual railway walk, for permission to put them there. So I've suggested at this stage the three designs, the two recycled and the bench design, are put forward, and perhaps. And I very much take on what Councillor Mason said about wood under a canopy, but there's also some open parts, and it would be quite nice, building on his idea of railway memorabilia, to reflect what Councillor Brown said, and actually have a few of these benches, perhaps in some of the sunnier places where they will last longer and not get so slimy, that immediately start to kind of evoke the thoughts of the railway. But obviously, you having different benches, different designs, adds to the interest. And in any case, we may find that West Suffolk don't agree with your choices, but it may be worth just submitting these three designs as a first step.
I would agree. Vicky.
But sorry, yes, I was just going to agree with Colin that you could perhaps put the railway sleeper design at maybe a prominent entrance or something to introduce you to the railway.
Yeah, a bit like the bench that's back of Strasbourg Square, where it looks like a railway thingy, undercarriage, not undercarriage. What do they call it? Carriage. That thing. All right. I guess we need to. I lost Colin again. There you go. I guess we need to budget-wise.
Well, at this stage, I think it's just in principle, those three designs, we will take those to West Suffolk, because obviously the depending on what they approve, and then depending, we can perhaps come out with some ideas for what would be, we know the cost for each individual bench, if we just went with a singular bench, because that's on this paper. But perhaps if we then looked at the sites and came back with a plan that shared some of the designs out, we can come back to you with a definite price on what that would cost, and you can consider the budget then.
Sounds good to me. Do you need any approval, proposal or anything, or just the?
If councillors are happy to confirm the three designs that they've been looking at, the two from Realise Futures and the railway sleeper design.
What about the one that Councillor Hanlon was suggesting?
That was lone voice. I haven't heard other people.
What's it called? Was that the Gladstone one? Go down a bit. I think.
One.
Not that one. No, it's the other one. Not that one. Next one down. That one. I think that's the one that Councillor Hanlon was talking about.
Oh, sorry, that's Gladstone's. Yes, okay. So Gladstone, the Realise Futures, and the.
Four.
Sorry, I thought that was.
Which one from Realise Futures?
Both, my view.
You want to propose 4 benches?
Yeah. Well,
I don't like the. Oh, sorry.
Well, go ahead. No, go ahead. No.
I don't like the third one. I mean, it's just a visual. It's just a personal thing. I personally think it's a bit ugly.
Which one is that? The top or bottom one?
The bottom one.
Oh, bottom one. Okay. No, only because it's from Realise Futures. That's all.
Yeah, and it was to fit in with the design that if elderly people would like to sit on the benches, that there's an armrest in the middle, themselves up on both sides.
Yeah, that's good.
Earlier on in the meeting.
Councillor Simpson.
If we are aiming to sign at some stage Railway Walk, to name it, because there are still residents who don't know that it's called Railway Walk. We do, but a lot of people don't seem to. Bruce and I and Tony have been thinking about, is the end of that Enviro 1500, that looks like a sizable slab of recycled material on which one could the one we were just looking at. Well, either of them actually, but the one there's got a horizontal armrest, a decent size of slab of material that a railway walk sign could go on, a small railway walk sign. I mean, it's just something to bear in mind.
Yep.
Is can we avoid having to stick up a signpost just to say this is railway walk, if we can stick them on each end of the armrest, so as people walk along they are getting the message this is railway walk. And I was kind of thinking that we would, if we're paying for those signs, we would have some Haverhill Town Council signage on them, you know, and that saves saying we paid for the benches as well. Well, I mean, that's a different matter if people are sponsoring them. I guess they might want individual plaques as well. But anyway, just think about signage as well.
Okay, the suggestion that I made, or come through Vicky, of course, about having every so often something saying, look, you are at this point. This is the history, like, you know, where the railway line used to split off to go across Sturmer Arches and that sort of stuff.
Except you could spend more on one of those boards than you do on a bench. It's a very expensive item.
Oh no, I wasn't
bear in mind. You know,
I wasn't thinking about full-blown metal thingy. I was just thinking about something that, like you have around towns occasionally. You know, and particularly on walks. Actually, you know, I think I mentioned previously about like the around London walk, where they're very just simple signs.
Yeah, but they've still got to have a post to stick them on and installed and, you know, designed and printed. Yeah. So it can end up being hundreds of pounds, and that's, you know. So they will be few and far between.
No, that's right. But I'm just thinking about the concept and maybe attachment to a tree or something. Was there anybody else wanted to speak on this? I can't see anybody. Oh, Councillor Marks, sorry.
Quite like that idea. I quite like the idea if you walk around East Town Park when they've done the history walk, those particular signs where that lady artist did all the work, and you know it's just a post and a board, but they're really nice, and actually people really like those, and that you could you know do your history as people walk along. I think that's quite nice actually, Alan. I like that.
Go on, Alan.
Well, I was just going to say, but I think you'll find that the parks folk do quite a lot of maintenance on them. Yeah. So if we're going to stick up cheap stuff that needs more maintenance, who is going to do the maintenance? Is our handyman going to go out and do it? Is West Suffolk going to adopt all these signs and do it for us? I doubt it.
Well, it's just something to think about for the future.
Yeah.
I think it'll be quite handy. Yeah. Right. Okay. I've lost Colin again. Oh, there you are. Sorry, sorry. Did you want to just remove the share screen?
Yeah, I think the reason I thought that Glaston was Realised Futures one is because I'm pretty confident that Realised Futures has an identical bench. I might say that what you did mention, Realised Future manufacture them. I think for clarity, I think Realised Futures receive the plastic the same as Gladstones do and build them. They don't actually make.
No. I was thinking more the fact that you know who put them together and that sort of thing. Okay, did you want a proposal or not, or just go ahead with it?
No, I'm happy with that instruction. I don't think it needs a proposal because we're just basically going to the district council to see whether they're going to agree. So we'll bring it back with the budget so you can propose the budget at some point.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. And thanks, Alicia. Well, Alicia's gone. Oh yeah, there you are down there. And Vicky, I've lost Vicky as well. There she is. Thank you. Right, let's move quickly on to 9B2, which is consider a recommendation to grant £10,000 towards the West Suffolk Citizens Advice. For those of you on finance, last week, whenever it was, we approved in principle this money, but obviously I had to bring it to town council because it's over £5,000. We had a briefing from Tony Howard from these, they're not called CAB anymore, they're just called Citizens Advice. So I don't know if anyone had any comments on that. Had any Councillor Crooks?
Sorry. Yeah, this comes out of the leisure budget, yes. And can the leisure budget cover it? Yeah.
It comes out of the grant budget.
Yes. Can your grant budget cover that then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Fine. Thank you.
Anybody else? Comments on it? Can I have a proposal in that case? Councillor Marks and secondly Councillor Fox. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Right, moving on to 9 Charlie's, 9C. Move the adoption to the Finance Committee held on the 19th of January. Did we have? Sorry. Sorry, bear with. We actually haven't had the finance. Have we had the finance meeting minutes? Have we?
I can't remember. Alicia, have we circulated it? I don't know whether we have in the end.
I haven't got my pack, as it were.
I don't think we circulated the minutes, but we've had the meeting.
Oh, I know, I had the meeting, yeah.
Okay, well, that'll need to be held across. Sorry, the minute the agenda was written in the expectation that we'd be able to get those out. But
sorry, Colin, I should have probably looked at that one earlier on when I was.
So should I? Sorry.
I reminded you. Okay. Right. Item 10 then, please. 10 Alpha, authorise the following payment list totaling £128,252.93. Proposed by Councillor Roach, seconded by Councillor Liz Smith. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Right, item 10 Bravo, the budget and precept. Again, the Finance Committee discussed this last week. So, Colin, over to you.
Do you want me to share the screen again so I can?
Yeah, worthwhile bringing up the narrative. What it's called.
Okay, so the big change, as I've said in my report, is that the local council tax support grant has been reinstigated for 1 year only. It's £21,000, which has been provided. So I've applied that. So it has made a difference to the preset level and council tax. Inflation is, as has been previously mentioned, and then what I've done is allocate some of the underspend to specific earmarked reserves, and I thought in particular it would be useful, given we're not going to get a local council tax support grant necessarily the next financial year, is to set up a new earmarked reserve to effectively give ourselves another local council tax support grant. And if I scroll down to the precept, you can see that for 22-23, it does help quite significantly to bring down the impact, because we don't know what's going to happen with the tax base as far as future years is concerned, how quickly it will recover. As we know, Haverhill hasn't done greatly out of the tax base. But the actual kind of central proposal, the third column there, now we're having the local council tax support grant, that brings Band D down a little bit. So instead of kind of 20p, it could be 14p a week increase, which amounts to 5.5%. So a Band B property would be increasing from £120.81 a year to £127.47 a year, which is the prevalent house type in Haverhill. Just in terms of demonstrating where the money would be going, obviously, big spend on the arts centre, but projects for Haverhill, because it includes the splash park, is particularly noticeable this year. Although I'm celebrating having local council tax support grant, just to put it in context, that gap there is what happened when they took the original local council tax support grant away, and that kind of triangle in there is the total sum of funds which we've missed out on as a result of the changes. But it's nice to see a little bit of local council tax support grant back. And although our expenditure is going up, particularly because of the splash park, it's worth noting that the precept is not increasing anywhere near the same rate as our expenditure. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. You've also got obviously the accompanying budget big spreadsheet, which you probably need magnifying glasses to read unless you're reading on screen.
Or the Zoom function on your computer.
Or the Zoom function, that's true. Right, any comments at all on this? Councillor Mason.
Yes, it's just a technical question. I wonder if you could help me with, Colin. CPIH over the last 12 months has been 0.8%. And, when you're applying a 2% projection over the next 3 years, 2% may end up being actually really quite significantly higher than what is likely. Is the 2% just a standard figure that is applied whenever we're looking at the budget? Or, what decision factors in? Because it is significantly above, for example, the last 12 months. I think forecasts would suggest that it's unlikely to hit 2% anytime soon.
Yeah, thank you for that. So basically, when we're working out the figures, we do zero-based budgeting. Whilst the fallback position, if we don't know, is to apply a level of inflation, for I think probably 95% of all the cost lines in the budget, we don't use the sort of fallback figure. We use what we think is going to happen for that particular expenditure. So you'll see things like postage and stationery and photocopy use, etc., probably going downwards. Expecting our, we look at what we really think is going to happen to utilities, etc. So by the time we've gone through the entire list, there's very few things that are actually left with general inflation. And I think probably reflecting your own thoughts, you'll find a lot of the budget figures, the individual budget lines, are the same budget for this year as last year, because we don't actually expect those things to be any more expensive at all. And where we expect them to be cheaper, they will be. So each individual line has been assessed for inflation.
Thank you.
I'm just going to repeat what I said at finance, which I'm not as confident as Colin is about the tax base recovering as much as it should do. I guess it depends on how long we have lockdown, and also people being able to get jobs again and this sort of stuff. So that's my own personal view. But I would like to thank Colin for all the work he's done on this. I know it's a fantastic thing. I've seen the underlying spreadsheet, which I know Bruce, Councillor Davis and myself have discussed with Colin. Right, so let's take this in the... sorry, Councillor Cook, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, we got an underspend of £160,000, and I gather that's still rising. So we don't know how much the underspend will be. It could well go well over 200,000. We've got £50,000 going into the climate change grant, which is fine. A lot of residents care about climate change. £50,000 going into the preset setting reserve. I think the budget the forecast budget over the years, I think it's the wrong way round, because we've got the highest hit this year at 5.5%, then 3.5%, 3.63%, then 3.5%. And the budget talks about worrying about an election. Well, it's up to the residents whether they throw out councillors or not, because whether they've done a correct budget or not. But with lots of our residents on 80% wages on furlough, I don't understand why we're giving residents the biggest hit this year rather than later on. So we really should have a maximum 3.5% for this budget, because this is the budget that means the most to residents, because they're on 80% of their wages. So it doesn't make sense to me. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Colin, do you want to come back on that?
Yep, I'm happy to. Thank you for that, Councillor Crooks. So basically the thinking is, first and foremost, in terms of where we'll finish up, we unfortunately can't wait until March 31st to set the budget, of course. We need to set it. In fact, ideally, the West Suffolk wanted it yesterday, but I think it's February is the deadline legally. So we have to make some assumptions. Secondly, there was discussion at earlier meetings, you may recall, you may not have been there, I'm not sure, that people who are in financial difficulty through job issues, etc., will be the ones not this year, will not be paying council tax in the first place, hence the reduction in the tax base. If we therefore apply it to the people who are actually okay, some may be just about managing, but people who are still working are the ones who will pay this year, as opposed to, if the economy recovers, people who just manage to find themselves a job later in the year, for the next financial year, will get clobbered. In terms of election, it's not because of the election, it's because of the fact that it's the what a new council will inherit from the old council. And in terms of prudence, it's not considered good practice for a existing council, potentially full of councillors seeking re-election, to put in something that results in very low increases when they're actually storing up trouble for the future. Suffolk County councillors can attest to what happens if you try and avoid increases. Eventually someone has to pay for it further down the line, but from a far harder position. So that's where the thinking was back, I think, in December time that this was discussed.
Is that right, Councillor Crooks?
Well, no, sorry, I can't. I'm probably a lone voice, but I can't support a budget where you're putting £50,000 into a preset reserve, where our residents are on furlough now. A lot of them, well, we all know residents, our friends and neighbours, that are on 80% of their wages, and we're giving the biggest hits now, whereas we should be giving the lowest hit now. And as residents get back to 100% wages and full employment, then the precept can increase a little. But we're giving them the hit at the worst time. It doesn't make sense. It's the wrong way around. Thank you, Jeff.
Okay. I guess the concept is, as Colin says, the increase is £6, whatever it is, per annum, or 14, what was it, 14 pence a week. I don't know, I'm sorry, Councillor Roach.
Yeah, if I can, it might help Councillor Crooks. The way it works is, if you don't put in the rises now, you get a knock-on cumulative effect that you can never catch up. And then we're also capped as to how much we can put the council taxes up. So we could end up, if we don't do it bit by bit as we go forward, we could end up with a bigger gap later on that we just can't meet. So that's why you always want to go for small incremental rises if you can. So I understand where you're coming from, but it's a difficult subject, but that's why we do it like that, so you don't end up creating this knock-on effect, because it rises and rises. It's a cumulative effect to it. I think that, does that explain it a little bit? Colin will back me up. I think that's the way it works.
As far as I'm aware, parish councils don't have a cap at the moment, but the government could. Like they threatened to a couple of years ago, didn't they?
Yeah, I can confirm what Councillor Rich is saying, and yes, Councillor Burns is correct. There is no cap on parishes at this stage. They have been mooted in the past, and it's down to the Secretary of State to decide whether to implement a cap. We are in uncharted waters, and to a certain extent, we could take all sorts of different views in terms of where we're going with the pandemic. Should we take into account not only savings for the rest of this financial year, but also, I mean, potentially we could start the new year with savings, but equally we could find ourselves having to face even, you know, a depression where there's even more people out of work in a year's time, as the knock-on effect continues. So it's very, very difficult. We almost just have to make some assumptions at times. If we reduce the increase in this financial year, it will revisit double in future financial years, and it may be that in the next financial year we're able to throttle back quite considerably. We had to make a decision to budget as if we were going to have a normal year.
Yeah, when we planned this, of course, it was, as you said, Colin, we didn't know that we're going to have this lockdown that we're in at the moment, which could potentially go on for a lot longer than any of us expect. Any other comments? Any, please? It's a major issue, obviously, at the annual town council. No. Okay, well, there's three things here. I think we take them separately, I believe, if I remember rightly. So the first one, sorry, Councillor Cook, sorry again. Sorry.
Could we have a recorded vote on these, please?
Can do. I mean, it's been recorded physically anyway, literally on YouTube, if that's sufficient for you.
I'd like the actual vote on the budget recorded, please, in the minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you happy, Councillor Crooks, to do that on the basis of who put their hands up when I asked the question?
Yes, if it's recorded in the minutes, yeah.
So right, yeah, we can do that. We can look at the recording, and rather than each individual name and everything, it's easier to do it that way. Only I'm conscious of the time and everything. Right, so the first one is first of all to approve the 2021 budget. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Marks. A seconder, please. Councillor McManus. So all those in favour, please show. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 4. Against? Councillor Crooks against. And there's no abstentions because there's that. Okay. Item 2, which is to approve the precept of increase of 14 pence a week, or 5.5%. Is that you proposing, Councillor Davidson? Yeah. Seconded, Councillor Liz Smith. Again, all those in favour, please show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 again. All those against, please show. Councillor Crooks, 1. That's carried as well. And finally, item 3, to authorise the chairman and town clerk to serve the precept demand on the district council. Can I have a proposer, please? Councillor Marks, seconder. Councillor Davidson, I picked up quickly then. All those in favour, please show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I won't bother voting because it's me doing it. That's fine. So that was unanimous on that one. Lovely, thank you very much. Item 11, to receive urgent correspondence. Anything, Colin?
No, there's none.
Lovely, thank you. Date of the next meeting, Monday the 22nd of February, that's item 12. And 13, which is the sole trustee of the Haverhill Community Trust to consider agreeing to waive the rent charges, and I understand what's about, so Colin will explain all.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So basically, the Haverhill Community Trust rents out the Arts Centre to the Town Council, to Heartseats, its trading subsidiary, and also to the local history group. Of course, none of the 3 entities have been able to carry out their activities in the Arts Centre. That's obviously pretty harsh on the local history group, and they haven't applied for their grant this year. I don't know if councillors are in contact with them to how they're going, and there will be questions, I guess, in terms of lots of voluntary organisations to how well they bounce back from the pandemic. Heartseats has a bigger problem in that it is a trading entity and simply hasn't earned any money to be able to pay the rent. We already have had a discussion to wind Heartseats up, and it's really a matter of if, as the community trust, we apply we demand the rents, then there's a very strong possibility that we'll actually bankrupt Heartseats. And if we're closing it anyway, that seems a particularly silly thing to do. And bear in mind that people are directors of Heartseats. So I would expect Councillor Hallen and myself would want to just to observe. You appointed us to be directors, but not to then be directors and then bankrupt the company. And finally, Haverhill Community Trust is being involved in a lot more grant applications for various different activities, whether that be for some of the art stuff that we're going through. There's lots of different grant applications being made in relation to COVID through Community Action Suffolk, and also for youth work, etc. One of the sticking points we've had is historically Haverhill Community Trust. We haven't really paid much attention to the general reserves of the trust, and at times we found that actually there's rather too much money in general reserves. So by not charging the rent, that'll take out quite a large slice of income for this financial year, which will reduce their overall reserves. And that will make it easier for us to leverage money in, which of course we then spend in the community. So there is a kind of win-win-win in making that decision not to charge the rent.
Okay, any questions at all on that? I think it's pretty straightforward as far as I think. But, Councillor Roach.
Just happy to propose, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, that's fine. I was about to ask for that. You beat me to it. Any seconder for that, please? Councillor Dave Smith, I saw first. All those in favour, please show. I think that's, Councillor Fox, did you?
I think perhaps I should have declared an interest, shouldn't I, as being part of the history group.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess yeah.
Yeah.
Lucarini's not here anyway, so.
No. And just out of interest, they are sort of starting to come back to life now in the last week or so. But Tony's been ill.
Is he? Oh, okay. I wonder why I haven't seen him downtown.
He's had a heart problem.
Oh, okay. I hope he's okay. All right. And before we close, I did receive a report from member staff about the volunteer centre, which I think is going to come to the volunteer working group report now. Thank you very much. Great. Sorry, Councillor Tony Brown.
A quick one. It was brought up earlier, but could we, as a town council, give a collective vote of thanks for the people, the work they're doing up at the epicentre, because that is absolutely, they're working their hearts out up there. I know Margaret's very close to what goes on there, but it'd be nice to be able to send a message up from town council just to say thank you. Yeah. As I say, I
did mention it earlier on. Councillor Hanlon.
Yes, I fully back that, second that. They've done a fantastic job. Although they've had a couple of hiccups, they soon got round that, and they've been working very, very hard as well to get as many people through as possible.
Yeah,
thank you.
You don't need it. Colin, sorry, there you are.
So yeah, I will pass that on. I have already actually done that on behalf of the town council already when they set up, but I will be happy to repeat it. Chair, we had a discussion earlier today about reports from officers. I didn't include reports from officers as we have done before Christmas, simply on the basis of the fact that with all the committees operating again, it was almost kind of a return to what used to happen. But I didn't know whether you wanted to actually test councillors' opinion on whether they're happy for officers just to report to their relevant committees, or whether they want reports to come here. I think everyone gets those reports, but they're not as often as monthly.
Yeah, any comments, thoughts? I mean, my personal view is I think the reports are good. I understand not repeating is sensible. I always say that single key entry, of course. I would say that perhaps we need to just have information that don't go to the committees, that perhaps, because staff are not necessarily working for a committee or working party or whatever you want to call it. They're working for the council. But Councillor Fox, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Emily did the report today because I told her she had to do one for tonight. That was my fault.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. Right. No, that's okay. That's fine. That's fine. I don't know anybody's views. Are those reports useful or not useful? Any thoughts? That's my only thought is the bits that they don't report onto those working parties would be nice to know what else is happening. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
And you don't need War and Peace. You only need bullet points.
Yeah.
Don't know what people think. Nod, shake your heads.
Bullet points is good.
Yeah. I know. I never. Yeah. I'm the one guilty of writing War and Peace.
Yeah.
Don't answer that one. Great. All right. Thank you very much indeed. We'll close the meeting at 21:24.